courtesy of the Boulder Gold Dome Mafia. Joined this morning by Executive Director, Colorado Rising Action, Michael Fields. And Michael, it has been a busy week, hasn't it now?
It seems like every week at the Capitol is busy. I'd rather talk about the Rockies too, but I think we need to inform people about some of this stuff that's still going on at the Capitol for another month or so here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, are you a Rockies fan?
I am. I grew up in Chicago, so I'm actually a White Sox fan. But since coming here, definitely follow the Rockies. Excited about the Rockies. Glad they finally have their home opener today. And it looks like good weather, so
that's right.
You can't complain.
Some to look forward to. Yeah, I understand being torn because I grew up in the Pittsburgh area. So, once a Pirates fan, always a Pirates fan. So let's talk a little bit about Senate Bill 181, this legislatively mandated recession. Of course, passing. It was laid over a couple of days, but they got it through with some amendments that are favorable to the oil and gas industry. But the fight isn't over yet. Now, to my knowledge, Governor Jared Polis still hasn't signed it, right?
I haven't seen that he's signed it. I know it's sent to him a couple days ago now. But it passed through, with a few amendments that were a little bit better. But I still think, this is going to be, an impact, have a huge impact on our economy. And you can already see some of these localities making moves even before it's signed to stop projects, et cetera. So I think, once we see what the new regulations will look like, the people that will be regulating the oil and gas, I think, there's definitely a few things that got better, but it's nowhere near where it needs to be, and nowhere near where they're claiming. This is, these legislators say it's going to have, hardly any impact at all. Then why are you passing the bill?
Right.
The people in industry say that it is.
Yeah.
So I think, there's no doubt that there's going to be a reaction, whether that's at the ballot box, whether, something gets put on the ballot to reverse some of this stuff. I think people are trying to figure that out right now, but I don't think, that it's really just going to let this happen. We're going to lose all this revenue, and, there's not going to be a response. I think there will be.
It's interesting. I had the chance yesterday to chat with Congressman and newly elected state GOP chairman Ken Buck.
Mm-hmm.
I think I got on his last nerve a little bit when I reminded him of that infamous article in The Hill back in 2017 when he wrote the Republican Party is dead. And I said, now you're the state's savior.
Yeah, and that was a close race this last weekend.
Yeah, it was.
But yeah. I think there's no doubt that Ken knows what he's doing. I think the Republicans have an opportunity here as Democrats overreach. How much can Republicans take advantage of that? And whether that is, a recall or two, whether that's at the back, getting some of these state House or state Senate seats back, or ballot issues. But, I think 2020 is going to be a big year, and then 2022 is going to be a really big year.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. He made the point that the ban on oil and gas development, let's call it for what it is, Senate Bill 181, he said it's Colorado's first taste of the Green New Deal, going on to say if the radical left gets their way, other industries like agriculture and aerospace could be next on the chopping block.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt. I mean, and Senator Gardner made the same point in a op-ed that he did this last week.
Shared that yesterday.
Blasting 181. Yeah, blasting 181. And I think they're onto something, saying, look, this is just a little bit of what, the larger national agenda is, and really what they want to do in Colorado. This is just the first step. And that will have a huge impact, but they want to fundamentally change how our economy looks. They want to fundamentally change energy development, and not for the better. So I think it's something to watch. I think that people in oil and gas will have a reaction, but as it starts impacting our everyday lives, I think people, normal, Coloradans will also push back.
Yeah, as well we should, because there is so much at stake. And as you alluded to, we are already seeing the repercussions of this bill before it's even been signed into law, not only in terms of the oil and gas industry, but I know I'm auguring to get someone on from a local hotel who says, hey, guess what? We are already seeing the impact of this on, our rates rates, I mean, on the number of people that are checking into our hotel. So again, let's make no mistake, this just doesn't impact the oil and gas industry.
No, there's a whole economy around the oil and gas industry economy, especially in places like Wells. And we've talked about before, this impacts local services, schools, et cetera. And as that revenue goes down, I mean, they're already looking for other ways to try to get revenue. They're trying to take our tabor refunds forever, is another bill at the legislature, trying to find ways to supplement the money that they're going to lose with this oil and gas legislation. So, yeah, it's not just the oil and gas industry, and I think that's a message that we need to tell people. This impacts hotels, restaurants, everything else surrounding that industry, too.
It's absolutely terrifying. I mean, this is shades of 2013, but I can't help but think it's going to have much further reaching implications overall. Hey, tell you what, you had written a great piece about the Democratic overreach, because the Democrats under the state Gold Dome not even making a pretense of listening to the minority party. I want to get into that, about the potential consequences, touch a little bit more on the recall efforts that continue to grow. We're seeing it right here in our own backyard with House District 50 Representative Rochelle Galindo. Talk about transportation, anything else that's top of mind for you, Michael Fields, Executive Director of Colorado Rising Action. So could you stick with us for another segment?
Absolutely.
Okay, that'd be great. More with Michael Fields in just a few. 8:15 now, 1310 KFKA. This time check sponsored by Caring Hearts Home Health Care, serving northern Colorado since 2001, where patient care always comes first. 970-378-1409 or caringheartshh.com.
Want the whole sports story in northern Colorado, the state and the country? Tune into the Hull Show, weekdays noon to 2 and 1310 KFKA.
Hey, northern Colorado, you're listening to Mornings with Gail. Stick around for me, The Dan Patrick Show, 9 a.m. on 1310 KFKA.
Oh, Micah, you are hitting on all cylinders this morning. Well done as we celebrate the Rockies home opener today at 2:10.
What you should have said is, I'm hitting home runs today.
Yeah, you're hitting it out of the park. How about that?
I'm bunting to first base.
Hey, whatever it takes, right? 8:22 now, 1310 KFKA, as our conversation continues this morning with Michael Fields, Executive Director of Colorado Rising Action. All right, love not necessarily in the air for many of our politicians, but recall in the air. To wit, closer to home, House District Representative Rochelle Galindo. This just cropping up this morning that this local group working to recall her is now free to begin collecting the necessary signatures to get her name on a recall ballot. Now, I might be going out into left field here, to borrow a baseball reference, but overall, Michael, what's your take on recalls on politicians?
Well, I think it's part of the process that we have here. I don't think it should be done lightly necessarily, but both sides have used it. I mean, obviously, Republicans used it in 2013 successfully against a couple of state senators, which really had a big impact on our state. But then Democrats used it in Jefferson County against school board members. So I think it's well known that it's part of the process. And it still takes a lot to do it. The threshold for signatures isn't that high. But it's still hard to get signatures. It's hard to get people on the same page, and then you have to end up winning the election. And I think something like the oil and gas bill, which is such a big deal in the area up where you guys are, and in Wells County in their district, I think that is a good enough reason to have this discussion. And recalls, we'll see how they turn out. It's hard to predict this early on. But it's definitely moving in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, and I had that conversation this morning. I would love to talk with Representative Galindo and just ask her a simple question. Here you are in a county that is responsible for 89%, give or take, of, oil, natural gas production in the state. And here you are voting yes on Senate Bill 181. What are you thinking?
I don't know. And then, not representing your constituents up there. I mean, overwhelmingly went against 112, which would have similar impacts, overwhelmingly against this bill. So I think, on the policy front, if not this, I don't know what you would recall somebody for. And she didn't even have to vote for it. I mean, They had the votes in order to get through it.
Yeah.
She wanted to make a statement, and part of the process is, your constituents making a statement back to you.
Yeah, votes have consequences, that's for sure. Let's talk a little bit about what is going on, and this is something that is echoed on the national level as well, but politicians getting increasingly frustrated with the fact that the party in control doesn't even deign to speak with them, and we're seeing that under the state Gold Dome, as I've talked with State Senator John Cook, for example, and he said, no, Democrats won't even talk to us.
Yeah, and I think it's a huge problem. I mean, it's not what, Senate President Leroy Garcia said going in to the sessions, that they're going to be collaborative, they're going to work with other people. I think the thing is, you lose good ideas, you lose good compromises when you don't talk to the other party at all. It's been a very nasty session in terms of that. But I think policy becomes better when you hear people out. And the one time that, they did this to their own party, which was, death penalty, Rhonda Fields, they iced her out of the process, and it came back. She got some senators to vote against, or say they would vote against the death penalty repeal, and that bill died. So I think there are consequences to not being inclusive in your processes when you're going to pass legislation. And I think people remember that, and they don't go out of their way to help you out, especially when the tables are flipped and Republicans get power back or whatever. But I think, the key is, as a legislator, you work with anybody who will work with you on things you agree with. If you disagree, you know that, but I think the process has to be a lot better at the legislature, and it's just not right now.
Whatever happened to voting for what is best for your constituents, best for the state, as opposed to best for yourself?
Yeah, and I think, a lot of that has to do with lobbyists and special interests that are around. I think they've moved really far to the left, this legislature, and Speaker Becker. I mean, just legislation after legislation, and they're really ramming it through because they don't want to hear from people. They don't want that blowback. But people are going to be hurt one way or the other. And now they're up in arms about these recalls or about other things. These are the consequences of not having a collaborative process at all.
You wrote a great piece in Complete Colorado talking about overreach, and consequences seems to be key to many of our discussions these days. What are the potential consequences of, you can't call it by any other name, overreach by the Democrats under the Gold Dome?
Well, I think, we talked about the first one, could be some kind of recall. I think a lot of the consequences will start in 2020 on the ballot. A lot of these things end up getting reversed. I think national popular vote gets reversed. I think that, one of the oil and gas, either this year or next year, ends up on the ballot getting reversed. But I think there's just this blowback that's going to be, there's a bunch of bills we don't agree with. We don't feel like our state is moving in the right direction. We don't think our economy is as good as it was when you guys took over. So, it might not be immediate where, the Republicans take back the House and Senate next time, but I think they'll make some gains. And then when redistricting happens in 2022, and you have 2 more years of Democrats in the governor's mansion and potentially in the legislature, I think that there's going to be a bigger reaction come 2022. But I also think somebody like Cory Gardner benefits from it, even though he's on the federal level. I think the state likes balance. They like, having not being totally driven by one party. And I think the benefit is going to probably be Cory Gardner and a few of these swing House and Senate seats that Republicans end up getting back.
So, and I've been struggling to get an answer on this, but based on your comments, they did take that. There was talk of a security clause in Senate Bill 181. Mm-hmm. That got yanked, right?
Yeah, so safety clause.
Safety clause, yeah.
So basically the Republicans wanted in 181 to be able to petition this the same way the national popular vote is able to petition. It's a lower threshold for signatures. It doesn't get implemented until that process goes through. That did not happen. They did not want voters more easily weighing in on this. And so what you have to do is go through the normal process, which is higher signatures, which is bring it to the ballot yourself to reverse something. So, yeah, they did not go along with the Republican ask to say, you know what, why don't we, get people to weigh in on this at a little bit easier level? That didn't happen.
Okay. Michael, never enough time to cover all the antics going on under the state cold dome, but certainly appreciate the update. How do we learn more about Colorado Rising Action?
ColoradoRisingAction.org. We're also on social media, Facebook, Twitter. Love if you guys would follow us and try to put out releases and information on this stuff. So appreciate you having me on, Gail.
Absolutely. Appreciate you keeping up the good fight, and go Rockies.
Go Rockies.